Have you ever felt concerned that the support listed in your child's EHCP could be taken away, or perhaps that the plan itself could come to an abrupt end? You might have already witnessed how when the right support is put in place, you observe your child thrive and become more confident with their learning. So when the support, by no fault of the child, starts to slip away and you have concerns that your child will be left to sink or swim, is there any need to be concerned? So in this video, I'm going to talk about how those pivotal changes in a child's educational journey can put a child in a vulnerable situation and prone to losing support. I will also give examples and explain why it is important to look out for these predicaments so that we can ensure that our children's EHCP remains fit for purpose. My name is Brenda and I'm a parent mentor and a fellow parent. I support parents raising children with individual needs to stay empowered whilst they navigate through procedural challenges. And as a parent, ensuring that my son's EHCP is accessible as a form of reference to support him within his education has been my focus. I have experienced the fear of him losing his support during pivotal changes during his educational journey. So as mentioned in some of my previous videos, the EHCP has many benefits. It tells teachers and health professionals how a child has progressed or regressed in a moment in time, and it provides a thorough understanding of a child's needs. And the EHCP is taken with a child as they evolve through their education, whether that's taking them from nursery, primary school, secondary school, then into further education. However, on our journey, there has been several times when being able to reference the EHCP has not been possible because for some reason the EHCP has just diminished. And it was especially during the times when the support from the plan was really needed. So if the local authority wishes to cease to maintain the EHCP, according to a solicitor, there are several factors to consider in reaching this decision, which include if the outcomes in section E have been met. Does the young person still need the EHCP to access the Section F provision? Does the young person staying in education help them to achieve Section E outcomes? Does the young person want to stay in education to complete learning? As a service, I don't discuss the legal requirements. My focus is primarily on the emotional fatigue that we experience as parents as we go through the system navigating these procedural challenges. So I've left a link for those legal services that can provide some specific advice. So as a parent, I can definitely say that there's one thing knowing that your child is in receipt of support, but another thing is wondering where it is when your child really needs it. So let's talk about those predicaments that leave your child vulnerable during those pivotal changes during their educational needs journey, when the support is not implemented effectively. A pivotal change during their educational journey is those times of transition, and this could be during year 3, year 5, going on into year 7, taking their GCSEs, either going on to further education or adulthood. These times of transition will take a child out of their routine, where they can feel overwhelmed, and these changes can set off their sensory processing challenges, making it hard for them to handle something new. The EHCP informs and provides an understanding for the school, college or the local authority to support a child to navigate through these changes effectively. In my experience whilst advocating for my son, there has been moments where transition has gone really well, and there were times when it hasn't. Where it hasn't worked so well was when there were challenges around making arrangements for visits prior to him attending a new educational setting, and also knowing who would take on the responsibility of certain parts of the EHCP, basically trying to identify who will carry on the support moving forward. The disruption that transitions bring is obvious, but on our journey I was led to believe that this would be managed smoothly and that my son will be guided as he evolved through his education. And I could see that the local authority had this information in public domain, so when action is not taken to deal with these changes, then unfortunately a child is left to forge ahead through their own efforts or fail, putting them at a huge disadvantage. By knowingly allowing a child to fend for themselves during a time when it would seem otherwise impossible for a child in receipt of special educational needs to do so, is a risk to a child losing their self-esteem and their confidence in their ability to learn. And it also may make it easier for others to assume that if they've gone that length of time without that support, perhaps they don't need it. And according to possible reasons why the local authority could seize a plan, this obviously would be a concern. Another pivotal change during a child's educational journey would be when a staff member leaves. Teaching assistants, teachers, key workers, even speech and language therapists move on, and children with special educational needs feel the brunt of staff shortages. The challenge with this is that some professionals leave with the insight and the information about the child, and if information is not updated or recorded, this crucial information wouldn't be available to the child to use whilst they're learning during their education. And the waiting between a previous staff member and a new staff member coming into post can be uncertain. And persevering without support is not meeting the support needs of the child. If staff shortages are not handled in a way that could somehow soften and support this challenge for a child, it will lead to them feeling confused, frustrated and unable to keep control over how they function in a challenging environment. This leaves them vulnerable to assumptions about what is in their best interest. And as a parent, these are the type of situations where it can easily make you feel disempowered. So this is where we as parents would need to become more vigilant about what support is put in place in the interim to accommodate the loss of a key worker or access to therapeutic support. And another pivotal change during a child's special educational needs journey is if a child moves or changes school or changes location. And one experience definitely comes to mind where we had moved from one borough to another county council to another county council to another, and these experiences provided me with some insight into how different local authorities operate differently, despite the regulated practices being implemented nationally. And it took 18 months for my son's EHCP to be taken from the previous county council's template to the template where we chose to reside. And after contacting the county council over those 18 months, I had so many different reasons as to where it could be, why it couldn't be published, why it couldn't be updated. The reasons given were that there was a change in the SEN officer, and it wouldn't be until that new officer came in post until the EHCP will be updated. There was no consideration of the fact that the EHCP needed to be available for my son to be able to continue with his education. There was no acknowledgement of the delay that had happened. I was told that the educational setting where my son was currently studying were to blame for the reasons why the EHCP wasn't updated. Despite this educational setting doing an amazing job in supporting my son without the EHCP being available. And I was also told during those 18 months that there would have been a possibility that my son's EHCP would be seized, because I was told that there were certain people overseeing and looking at the EHCP to make that decision. And this was really frustrating because there was no evidence that it wasn't needed and nothing had changed other than the actual location. Thankfully, the HCP was available and updated. However, the reason I'm sharing this is because there was concern, there was unnecessary concern for the EHCP to be seized. So when looking at transitions, when looking at when there's been a change of staff, and when there's been a change of school or location, and recognising how these pivotal changes are handled can minimise any unnecessary disruptions within a child's education. So we can stay empowered as parents to continue to advocate for our children's needs if the situation requires us to do so. So I hope you found the information in this video interesting. Why not check out some of my other videos, or for further detail, why not check out my website? But for now, keep doing what you're doing, stay focused, stay empowered, and keep creating progress. Thank you for listening.